Welcome to another episode of Hot Mess Espresso. Let's get into this week. You guys, we have a reality personality with multiple rare and chronic diseases. She's a chronic pain educator, patient advocate, motivational speaker, and best-selling author on pain topics. She's also a cheerleader of hope. Please welcome Barby Ingle. Barbie, thanks for hopping on.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. I'm so excited to be here and glad to be sharing, and I appreciate the time you're giving me.
No, I appreciate you. So, tell us a little bit about your story.
I have actually been living with rare diseases for over 20 years. The worst one is one that goes by multiple names because it's a rare disease, and every doctor thinks they're finding something new, so they keep giving it a new name. But it's most known by reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and anything in your body that's automatic is your reflexes. So mine are haywire. Swallowing can be a challenge. Blinking, eyes crying, all challenges for me. Sympathetic is my nervous system. It feels like somebody put lighter fluid in my veins, and I constantly feel like I'm on fire, yet I'm freezing at the same time. So I am either wearing long sleeves, long pants, have a blanket with me, a jacket, something, because I'm always cold. And then dystrophy is loss of muscle and bone. And due to that, I got dystonia where my body locks up, and have spent years bedbound and wheelchair bound, and finally found treatment and started living life again. And one of the things I love and have loved during this time is reality television. So I started trying out for shows and actually landed a few. So I kind of get to live like there's no tomorrow every day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What are some of your favorite reality shows to actually like watch versus being on?
Okay, so I love watching Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor, so the competition type shows. But I also like
Mm,
American Idol, and I've been to many of the American Idol finales and some of the shows, and have actually got to meet and become friends with Paula Abdul, and I got to meet JLo, and I got to meet Ryan Seacrest, and so I really like American Idol of yesteryear, not necessarily the current American Idol, but I do
right.
watch it, just not so into it. Um, and I used to be a singer, but I've had over 39 neck procedures,
Right.
throat procedures due to my rare disease, and so I no longer sing on key myself. But I love watching other people perform and act. So America's Got Talent, although I haven't ever gone to that live, I do like watching it on TV. And but then when it comes to doing reality, the thing that I like to do is be myself and not have to act or remember. And but even with reality, it's the seed of truth with a storyline and a producer telling you, okay, you did it your way first, now try doing it this way. And by the sixth take, it's a completely different thing than you would have done. But it's still fun, and it helps me raise awareness. So that's why I got into sharing my story and doing reality, and getting involved in those type of ways. So it's more living my own life, like kind of like the Kardashians, although that is set up reality as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Kardashians is a guilty pleasure over here. I'm sure
Yes.
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for it, but honestly, I just my family is just the slightly funnier and like way lower tax bracket version of the Kardashians, so it works out well for us. But
Awesome.
what's the process of getting diagnosed with RSD? And you had touched on it. Do you find that the doctors that you come into contact with, they obviously they think that they've discovered something like profound, and so you kind of touched on that, but what is the process of getting diagnosed?
So for me, it took 43 doctors. The first 42 got it wrong, and I was overtreated, undertreated, mistreated. And by the time I got to the 43rd doctor, he actually knew something, but he didn't know everything. And he recognized that in himself, which was unique and rare as well. And to diagnose me, what he did was he went through all my history. He had me give him all of my records from the first 42 providers, and he went through all of that. And then he offered me a test called a nerve block, and it's a procedure that took about 45 minutes. And they were able. My arm was curled up, and had severe burning fire pain, and my pain level was about a 9 out of 10 scale. And he gave me that test, and for about 3 hours, I could straighten my arm and move it around and lift it above my head, and then the nerve block wore off, and it curled right back up. So, so in that 3 hours, it had been a couple of years since I had that full range of motion, and so I was doing things that I wouldn't normally have been able to do. So I definitely had a rebound effect, and the pain was actually worse. My scale of 1 to 10 changed in that moment after the nerve block wore off. Um, but that was how he diagnosed me. Now they can use thermal imaging to diagnose it, and that is more accurate than any other test on earth. Although this past week there was a study that came out of the UK that they found 3 genes related to the genetic portion of the disease, which up until last week they didn't. They would say that they don't think there's a genetic component, although I have multiple family members that live with it. So there is a genetic component, but until last week, now they know specifically what genes they're looking for in diagnosing it. So I think over the 20 years since I've been diagnosed, or since I've had it, and 17 years of being diagnosed, it's gotten better, and I've seen progress in diagnosing it and treating it. But sometimes I also feel like we're moving backwards, and things that were already done, accomplished, and we can move forward from. When a new provider says, "Oh, I got this new disease, and now it's complex regional pain syndrome," but there's nothing regional about it. It's in our blood. It literally makes us move backwards in treatment. And it's been a disease that's been known since the Civil War, but the first name for it was causalgia, but it's gone through like sympathetically mediated pain, sympathetically independent pain, um, uh, uh, no autoimmune disease. Like, it's gone through all these different
Right.
terms. So I like the term RSD the best. RSD for short, reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And because to me, that most describes all of the different variations and symptoms that we go through.
Right. And I know that you had mentioned when we talked previously that they're finding it a lot in active duty military and veterans.
Yes.
And can you expand on that a little bit? Because I know when we had talked, I was incredibly interested in that. And I just think that would be good information for other people to know.
It's absolutely fascinating. They say 54% of our soldiers that are coming back from the Middle East that are coming back with injuries are developing RSD, and it's affecting their lives. And if we knew, and blood tests are in the works and coming to diagnose it, but at this point we don't really have that, especially here in the United States. We would be able to tell a veteran before they even entered into the military, hey, you have this in your blood, like maybe like Lyme disease, so we know you're going to have symptoms at some point. We need you to avoid trauma. They can put the veterans into less traumatic situations, or less chemical situations. A lot of patients also are found to have a lot of exposure environmentally to toxins such as mosquito spray, or pesticides in our house, yards, environment. As a child, I used to chase the mosquito man, and on my bike, riding behind him, yelling out mosquito man" for everybody else.
Oh, God.
So they put it in their houses, but yet I didn't know better than to not ride behind the mosquito man truck
Right.
and get all of that pesticide on me. So, and my siblings did that with me, and my oldest one had the least exposure. My father was in Vietnam and was exposed to Agent Orange,
Mm-hmm.
and that is also another consideration of people that are getting diagnosed, especially military. What chemicals were they exposed to is something happening with their DNA that's passing down to the children, and that research is going on now.
That is just yeah, that is just fascinating. When you had mentioned, when you were giving me all the facts and figures and you said military, I was
Yeah,
like, "Wait, what?" Because we don't
it's
really
huge number,
nobody really talks about things that affect, um
right?
that those would be like the kind of the last people that you would expect would have kind of a I don't know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it was just it was in it
They're getting
yeah.
exposed to something that in, and there's a lot of people that are of Asian descent that get this disease, even more than Caucasians. So
Mm.
it's definitely what is happening in these other countries, pollution wise, environment wise, genetically, that is exposing our soldiers to this disease and having the rest of their life affected. They live through war, they live through all this trauma, yet they come back with this disease, and now they have a whole new set of challenges to face.
Yeah, that's crazy. But to just circle back to, I mean, I that is fascinating, but you are the main guest here. So, with that being said, how has being diagnosed with a rare and complicated disease, as rare and complicated as RSD is, how has it shaped or altered your view of modern medicine?
I learned that modern medicine is working exactly as designed, very poorly.
Yep.
it's, it's actually really difficult to get access to proper and timely care, and even more so individualized care. You can have two people with the exact same disease, and it's affecting each of you a little bit differently based on your lifestyle, environment, genetics. And when providers don't look at us as individual people and what challenges do we need to have help with and assistance with, and they want to give us a little bit of time when we're in their office, it really can affect the outcomes and the care, and for some people the willingness to live or move on or move forward, or other patients just give up on the medical system and say, I don't want anything to do with the medical system. I'm just going to suffer until I die. And for me, I want to live the most life I can. So I am constantly searching and researching to find the options and choices. And if I can't find something, I try to create it. For instance, doctors did not tell me this. The doctors did not say, oh, you have this rare disease and this is how you're going to live life now. They were like, you have this rare disease, now go figure out life.
Yeah,
That's
we
not
love
how
that.
that's not how our system should be designed. It should be designed for us to help each other, help humanity, help society, so that we can all bolster society and all live better lives. And our health system is definitely not designed to do that. Whereas other countries, we're ranked like in the 30s of healthcare out of all the first world countries in the world. So why are we number 30 when we're supposed to be America the Great? It just doesn't work like that. So we have to find the tools or create the tools that we need in our life to live better lives.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Sadly.
But so, in your opinion, then how do you think chronic pain and a complicated health journey can change one's mental health? And then to jump off of that, how did it change your mental health?
It affects every aspect of my life, including mental health. When I first didn't, I wasn't getting diagnosed, and I wasn't getting proper and timely treatment. I was questioning myself. What am I going through? Why am I going through this? How do I get past this? The more I fought, the more I got pulled down like crabs in a bucket. They're all boiling, and someone tries to escape, and the other crabs pull them back down. Like, you're not going anywhere. If we're going to die, you're going to die. Let's all do it together. Like,
Yep.
it really affected my mental health, and I had to restructure and organize my life. Prior to getting RSD, I was very athletic. I was a head coach at a university for cheerleading and dance, and I never thought that an 8-second accident could trigger this rare disease in my body and change my life and my physical abilities. So when it changed my physical abilities, it also affected me with my mental health, and I had to learn to build myself back up. One of the things I did was go to counseling, and one of my counselors taught me an exercise called I Am, and he would have me. The first time he sent me home with homework, and he said, write down as many I ams as you can think of. And I went home and I was like, I suck. I am nothing. And he was like, no, that's not the type of
No,
I
no, no.
ams you need.
That's not what we meant.
That's not what we meant. That is not the homework assignment. And he called me about 3 days in. He was like, you're coming in for your next appointment in a few days. I just want to make sure your list is going well. And I was like, I literally don't have one positive I am. I lost everything. I suck. And he was like, no, really you don't. So let's search out. And he's like, you're spiritual, so let's write down that can be your first I am spiritual. And start thinking about who you are deep inside versus what you do, and disconnect the coaching and the leadership from who you are as a human being. And when I started to do that, things started flowing. I am cheerful and I am bubbly and I am confident, and things that I don't always feel confident, but I have confidence in me. So I put these things on my list, and by the time I got to his office at the end of the week, I had about 50 things on my list. And by the time I left his office, I had about 75 things on my list. And now, 20 years later, I have over 150 I ams. And when I'm having a bad time or something brings me down medically, mentally, on online social media, haters, whatever it is, I can go to my list and remind myself I am all these things. I may not be all these things in this moment, but I possess all of these things in my being. And that allows me to do things in life and live more life. And so I really had to grab onto those tools that I was taught and tools that I could create and find new ways to live.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to ask that too. Like, are there some days that the I ams don't work? Like, you get to number 4 and you're like, screw this. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just not doing it. Are there days that you have those, or do you just kind of like force yourself to go
absolutely.
through them?
No, I still read them and remind myself, and sometimes I have to go to a mirror and stand in the mirror and tell myself my I ams and really visualize it. Sometimes I cannot get out of bed, and I have to give myself grace, and I have to let go of the guilt of not being able to live life to the fullest in that moment, or redefine how I'm living life to the fullest. And say, okay, I might not be able to get out of bed today, or my arm might be curled up today, or I can't use my foot today. Yet, I can come up with other things and think about when I am feeling better, I am going to do X, Y, and Z, and write those things down so I don't forget them, so that I one day can accomplish them. But give myself the grace to know I don't have to be on every single moment, and I am going to fail every single day at different things that I try, but I have the grace to get through that, and I also let go of the guilt. And I actually will, like, if I feel like I'm getting guilt from somebody else or I'm putting guilt on myself, I will grab that invisible guilt off of my chest, because that's usually where I feel it,
Yep.
and I will grab it and I will put it away from my body and throw it. Or I will rub my hands together if I have anxiety and throw it out away from my body and away from my being, so that I can let go of that anxiety, let go of stress, guilt, anything negative that is holding me down, and say, all right, today I just am in bed. Today I am going to watch movies because mentally I can't stay focused or active or whatever it is that I really wanted to do that day. I have to recognize it, work through it, cheer myself to and through it, and realize that it's just when you're going through life, it's like a football game.
Yeah.
I compare it to a football game. My dad would say, how do you cheer yourself on? How do you cheer the crowd on when you're losing 50-0? And after I got this rare disease, I said, I am the game, and my game is life. And I might lose a quarter, I might lose a play, but in life, I want to win. So what do I have to do in this moment to make the next moment better? And I stopped looking at a 24-hour clock and started looking at, this is the moment I'm in. How can I make this moment be the best it can be, versus trying to fit all this stuff into a day and not being able to, and then going, I failed today.
Yeah, that is
I can say.
so important. So important, I feel. Especially for anybody dealing with like a chronic or suddenly chronic illness. It's so important to give yourself those days, but also realize that that's not how it always is. Because I know I
Right.
struggle. I struggle with my chronic
Yeah.
illnesses all the time. There are some days where I am just like depressed and I give myself the day and then I'm like, okay, tomorrow we're going to feel differently. Today I am going to feel like absolute shit about this. But
And that's
tomorrow is going to
okay.
be different
Yep.
because it has to
Yep.
be.
Or even by like 6 p.m., you might go, oh, hey, I can still accomplish this one thing today. I
Yes.
want to do 10, but cheer yourself on to accomplish the one thing and be proud of accomplishing that one thing. You don't have to accomplish all 10 things. Tomorrow we'll be here. And if not, then you'll be in heaven or wherever you go.
Right.
but
Exactly.
where, wherever you go, you don't have to worry about these earthly things anymore.
Right.
So know that, okay, I went to bed and my desk is a mess, or my computer's a mess, or I didn't get the social media post up that I wanted to get up. Or even sometimes on a bad day, if I'm able, I will post a picture of myself when I had a good day
Mhm.
as a reminder to me and others that I do have good days, even though this moment sucks. Or when having a really good day, that's when I will post my times when I was having my hardest challenges, because I have the strength to recognize, hey, I came from there and now I'm here. And other people can do that too. A lot of people will look at you like you're climbing a mountain, and they'll look up and they'll be like, oh, I want to be where that person is at the top of the mountain. And really, you feel like you're in a valley in your own life, but what other people see is that you're at a peak of something. And
Mhm.
that's where they wish to be, and recognizing that it doesn't have to compare to somebody else. Your peak is somebody else's valley, and vice versa. And be okay with where you are and let yourself experience that mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever manifestation it comes in. Experience it. If you don't like it, work to find other ways to get through it when you can. But know that in that moment, you're still a person with worth, and you can get through it.
Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. Well, what are what are some ways that people navigating the healthcare system for the first time after a major health change, whether it be a sudden disability, a sudden, you know, chronic illness, which I mean, when you get a sudden chronic illness diagnosis, there's nothing sudden about it, but when you kind of have that label or that diagnosis kind of slapped on and you realize that this is not going to get better, like this is not going to, this kind of is what it is at this point. Um
Right.
what are some ways that people navigating all of that, how can they better advocate for themselves as somebody who's done that work?
Yes. First off, when you are diagnosed, it's like learning a whole new language. You speak English, all of a sudden everybody around you is speaking Spanish, and you don't necessarily understand, or you can pick out a few words. So start recognizing the words and understanding what language that your provider is speaking. And if you don't understand, write the words down, go look it up. Advocate for yourself in doing research and talking to others with a similar condition that have been through that challenge. And the same way that they found what works for them, you have to find what works for you. So I say create an oasis around yourself where you have these tools. Like when I was bedbound for years, on my nightstands and actually on my bed, I would have tools that I needed. So when my husband was leaving, or whoever was caregiving for me at that time, my dad or my sister, whoever was there, they could go and be themselves also, because they still need, my caregivers still need to live their
Yes.
life. But I needed to have that oasis around me, so I had the tools and I could look and visually see, oh, I have a heating pad here. I have a massage or a TINS unit, or whatever it is that you need in your life. Build those things around you so they're within your reach, that you can see them. Don't feel like you need to put them all away and hide them. Use those tools to give yourself more life. And um, and then reach out and seek help. A lot of times people are afraid to ask for help. We need to be able to recognize and learn and take the time to learn, which for me was journaling. I journaled and said, these are the activities I did today. These things made me worse. These things helped me feel better. These are the medications I tried, the healing I tried. And so, oh, on these things I did this, and I started seeing a pattern over time that I knew that if I wanted to have better days, I could do these things and have some better days, some better moments, some better time. And so that journaling and organizing. And then I didn't do this for a few years, about 3 years. Just before I got diagnosed, I started ordering all my medical records, and I saw tons of mistakes in my medical records. And I realized that providers are there to help you, but they're a tool, and they can also make mistakes. So I would not understand why doctors weren't understanding when I would say my right arm, and somebody wrote down left leg or left foot, and I'm there about my arm or my breathing, and they're totally looking at a different body part, thinking that that is where it's coming from, and not able to see the big picture. When I went through my records, I started writing down all the mistakes, and
Yes.
it took a long time, especially because I hadn't done it for 3 years, and I had, you know, in that first 3 years, it was like $500,000 in medical bills. My pile of medical bills was about 3 feet tall. Now it's over 5 feet tall, and I wrote to each provider as I had the energy, and took the time and said, on this day I saw you and this needs to be fixed. It says this, it should say that. And then I learned that providers can't change your records. What's in your record is going to stay. So then I learned to say, please attach this correction to my permanent record.
Yes.
And when those records would get passed on to new providers, my corrections were in that record, and the new provider could see, oh, it wasn't her foot she was going in to be seen for, it was her right lung. They could see these types of mistakes, and
Right.
it also helped me with my medical bills. And I would pay the medical bills up until I ran out of money. I would pay the medical bills without question. The
Right.
doctor knows what to bill you, but really they have a billing department that doesn't know what the doctor did necessarily, and they're trying to go through these notes that aren't necessarily correct and come up with billing codes to match. So I started waiting for my explanation of benefits to come from insurance to really look at what they said that they did and what they actually did, have it corrected if there was mistakes. But I also learned to look for if your name is misspelled, if your birth date is incorrect, if your insurance code is incorrect, your ID,
Right.
insurance ID is incorrect. All of those things matter, and insurance pays differently based on the codes that they're given. And for instance, if a doctor says you need this medication, and then the pharmacy changes it to a generic, and you don't do well, are they going to pay for it the same? Well, if your doctor marks on their form no substitution, it can give you the generic price in some cases for the brand name product because your doctor said no substitution. Things like that, checking that work and making sure that all the things are done. Now, again, the sooner you start this process and getting it corrected, the better off you'll be. If you're newly diagnosed, the sooner you start, the better. So start paying attention. Don't pay your bills till your EOB comes, and it'll say patient responsibility, and that's the portion you pay. So I paid $2,000 when I only owed 20, and because the insurance wasn't inputted correctly or the billing code wasn't inputted correctly, I could have saved tens of thousands of dollars in those first few years, not knowing and understanding the process. So really pay attention to your records and your bills, and only pay what your insurance has negotiated for you. And if you need a payment plan, or you can't pay it all, say it's a big hospital bill, $20,000, you're supposed to pay $2,000 of that, you can always go to the hospital and say, I need a charity case form. Can you help me? Uh, it's usually a one-page form. You fill it out, you turn it in, and then they have a board that decides, yes, this is a charity case. We're going to write off the whole amount, or we're only going to charge you 10% of 20%, or whatever it is that they come up with based on your situation. But a lot of times, a lot of people don't ask when they need help. Back to ask if you need help. A lot of people don't ask, and it's not going to hurt you to ask for a charity case form to complete so that you can navigate your life along, because you need to continue your care, and the
Yep.
better care you get, the better your treatment's going to be, the better you're going to do. So asking for those charity cases when you need it, asking for help from the people around you when you need it, and then also testing your own boundaries. As a patient, a lot of times we're doing 5 years later, we're doing the same thing that our doctor told us 5 years ago, and there's new things that came down the pipeline.
Yes.
Check those out. Check your boundaries. What are you doing? Is it the same thing as 5 years ago? Because there might be something better. Find out and work to get access to whatever that new option is.
No, that's all incredibly helpful. And in fact, I personally, with what you just said, I picked up a couple of things that I'm going to be using from here on out. I mean,
Good.
I knew getting the medical records, but there were a couple other things that I'm just like, like, I know a thing or two now. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, where can we find you? Like social media, websites, where can we find you? We'll have it all linked below, but still.
Awesome. So because there's a lot, but if you Google my name, Barby Ingle, you'll find a lot of ways to connect with me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X, I guess, and not Twitter. LinkedIn. I think the only social media I'm not on is TikTok. I don't dance anymore, so um, and and you can go to my website barbyingle.com, and I try to make it very linkable and usable from there, so you can find out about my books, see what any projects or upcoming events that I have, as well as I do a lot of outreach with multiple organizations, so you can find that information there. And that's probably the most comprehensive is my website, barbyingle.com.
Perfect. 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 Yeah, we will have everything linked, but it's also just, good for you to say it out loud. But before I let you go, we have a little bit
Yes.
of a rapid fire. And
Nice.
we're going to do a little bit of fall related, one general, but it's going to be fun. So before I let you go,
Okay.
uh
All right.
just a little this or that. It's the first thing that comes to
Okay.
mind. So, movies or TV shows?
TV shows.
Girl same. Girl same. Donuts or muffins?
I love a donut, especially Krispy Kreme,
Oh,
but I'll take any donut.
right. I'm not picky.
I'll take any donut.
uh,
Muffins can be like too vegetable-y, like carrot cake type of
right.
muffins. So yeah, I want the sweets.
Yep. Yeah, I love a good blueberry muffin, but that's about it. When you throw chocolate chips in there, it's odd. I can't do it.
Too much. Yeah.
It's just weird.
Might as well be chocolate bar.
So, when it comes to flavors, since it's fall, pumpkin or apple?
Apple.
Yeah.
And green apple. Specifically green apple.
Ooh, you like a little bite to it.
Yes, I like a little bite to it, a
We
little zing.
will zing. So a pumpkin patch or apple picking?
Ooh. I like both, but I'm going to go with pumpkin patch.
Those are
I
pretty
love
fun.
orange. I love the color orange. And orange is the happiest color, but it also represents chronic pain. And so I like orange, and so pumpkin patch.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that orange. Oh, okay. You learned something new. Apparently, I'm learning several things today, but you learned something new. So, last one: hot cider or hot chocolate?
Hot chocolate. Yes, hot chocolate with this big heaping spoonful of Cool Whip.
Oh, yep, yeah. We got to have the whipped cream on there. It's not the
Yes.
same. But,
No. Or marshmallows, but Cool
ooh,
Whip has been my favorite lately. As fall is coming around, I've had hot chocolate a few times already. Even in the warmth of Arizona, I like warmth. And yes, a good cup of hot chocolate just can soothe your soul.
it really does. I don't know. It's just like a big warm hug. Not
Yes, from the
not to be
inside.
Olaf right now, but warm hug. It's a warm hug.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. This has been incredibly enlightening on so many levels. And I
Good.
and
Thank
I
you so much for having me.
and I think your platform's really really important for people dealing with chronic illness and chronic pain because there's a movement to be heard more, but we're still not that heard. And so
Absolutely.
I think what you're doing is beyond fantastic, and it kind of sucks that it's like, you had to go through everything in order to like be that advocate, but I am so grateful that you have used this as a platform to bring awareness to so many issues, so many, rare diseases and chronic issues, and it's so nice to see. And I really really thank you for taking the time out and talking to me and all of the things. So, thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for all that you're doing. Hosting a podcast is really hard, and I think you're doing a great job in it. And you make it fun, and you make it entertaining, but you also make it educational. And I think everybody listening should rate you the top scores, 5 stars, whatever the top is. You're at the top, and I wish you much success in all you do, and appreciate all you're doing to help the community, not just the pain community, the rare disease community, but with the podcast, you're reaching out to the world, and other people that need to hear this message and don't even necessarily know it will stumble across what you're doing, and what you're doing is appreciated. So remember that as well.
Thank you so much. Oh my god.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, Hunter from the Everything is Connected podcast here.
Heather from Hot Mess Espresso.
And Amber from Connection Over Perfection.
You know, in this world of endless chatter, finding genuine conversations can be a challenge.
That being said, we introduce Podcast Connection Network, a space where we lay it all out unfiltered.
Dive in with us. It's about authentic connections and conversations that truly matter.
To learn more about the network and each of our podcasts, click the link in the description below. The Podcast Connection Network. Never going to give you up, never going to let you down.